Robin, I think, was the last to give up on the dream, but she's finally consented. Yeah, let's go ahead and sell. I'm pretty positive that Meri and Janelle want to sell.
We all know the official story, the polished tale, the one repeated in confessionals and promotional trailers, carefully crafted by the Brown family and polished by the network's editors into something neat enough for primetime television. Kody Brown, patriarch of the now crumbling Sister Wives empire, simply could not build his dream on Coyote Pass because the money was too tight, because the wives argued too much, because the bureaucracy of Flagstaff and Coconino County strangled his vision before it could ever become real. That is the narrative spoon-fed to the audience for 6 years. It's a story of delayed dreams, financial hardship, and squabbling spouses. But the truth, as always, is never as simple as the story we are told. And what we have discovered in our investigation here at Sister Wives Crew is that the land itself may hold the darkest secret of all. What if the real problem was never Kody's wallet, never Christine's stubbornness, never Robin's tears, nor Janelle's pragmatism, nor Meri's exclusion? What if the problem is the land itself, a barren, unstable, and possibly cursed stretch of Arizona wilderness that was doomed from the very moment they purchased it? Over the past months, we have poured through Coconino County property surveys, examined obscure environmental filings buried deep in the county's archives, cross-referenced geological reports and zoning restrictions, scrutinized every financial contradiction in the Brown story, and what we uncovered paints a picture that is darker, stranger, and far more consequential than anything TLC has ever dared broadcast. Let us go back to the beginning, 2018. The Browns abandoning the sterile cul-de-sacs of Las Vegas, selling off their homes, packing up their many children, and moving to Flagstaff with promises of freedom, space, and a fresh start. Investing over $820,000 into a vast parcel of land, christened with prophetic grandeur as Coyote Pass, their supposed promised land. On camera, Kody spoke with the fervor of a prophet about what this land meant: a unified vision, a sprawling home that would finally bring them together, or at the very least for individual houses side by side, a physical embodiment of family endurance, proof that their unconventional union was not only surviving, but thriving. Yet here we are, more than half a decade later, and the reality is damning. Not a single shovel has pierced the soil. Not a foundation laid, not even a modest shed or letterbox erected. The land lying empty and windswept, its silence mocking the endless rhetoric of unity and progress that was once promised. The excuses, meanwhile, have shifted as fluidly as the Arizona sands in a monsoon storm. At first, we were told of financial hardship, with Kody wringing his hands in living room scenes, declaring to his wives that the banks would not grant construction loans until the land was free and clear, while Janelle, always the pragmatic voice, confirmed the situation was precarious, citing their multiple properties in Flagstaff, lingering Las Vegas mortgages, and the sheer weight of financial obligations crushing the family. To the casual viewer, it sounded plausible, even sympathetic. A family stretched too thin, drowning in debt, unable to scrape together the funds for the dream they longed for. Yet the contradictions quickly surface when one digs deeper, for at the very same time Kody lamented poverty on camera. The family's income was more substantial than he let on. Industry experts confirm that reality families on long-running shows earn anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000 per episode. And with Sister Wives averaging 14 to 17 episodes per season, that places their base earnings comfortably in the $500,000 range annually, conservatively estimated at $400,000. Before even counting their numerous side ventures, Christine, at her peak with LuLaRoe, was said to have earned a six-figure income from her multi-level sales. Janelle operated her Strive with Janelle's health and wellness brand alongside her Plexus network. And Meri ran Lizzie's Heritage in a thriving and award-winning bed and breakfast in Utah. These were not hobbyist side hustles, but significant streams of income that should have made construction not only possible, but inevitable. And then comes the smoking gun in 2019, a mere year after purchasing Coyote Pass and supposedly drowning in debt. Kody and Robin purchased a sprawling 5-bedroom, 4-bath property for $890,000, nearly $1 million spent on one home for one wife. While the so-called unified dreamland sat barren. They could afford luxury for Robin, yet could not, or rather would not, spend the funds to run a simple waterline or lay a single foundation on Coyote Pass. The arithmetic here does not merely fail to add up, it insults the intelligence of anyone paying attention. Even more damning are Kody's own words. Words that betray the carefully constructed sob story. In one confessional, he boasted, "I could have all the homes built by Christmas if I wanted to. I could get the loans. I'm a good risk. The money isn't the problem. The problem is the family." There it is in plain admission. Money was never the barrier. The financial excuse was nothing more than a convenient smokescreen. And when it began to crumble under scrutiny, another narrative swiftly took its place. The family feud. Season after season, we were fed the spectacle of wives bickering over lots, autonomy, and Kody's fantasy of a singular mansion. Christine was adamant she would never share a single home again. Robin wept over her dream of children growing up side by side. Janelle insisted on independence, and Meri remained on the margins, waiting for inclusion that never came. These conflicts fueled endless episodes, making compelling television and offering a convenient scapegoat. Progress was delayed not because of external forces, but because of stubborn wives sabotaging Kody's grand vision. But once again, reality dismantles the narrative. The disputes were eventually resolved. The county plat maps were filed, the lots divided. Christine reluctantly accepted her placement, Janelle was appeased, Robin was close to Kody, and even Meri was granted a token corner of the dream. On paper, the roadblock was cleared, yet no progress followed. Nothing. The land remained untouched, as if frozen in time. And years later, when Christine departed and the excuse of marital discord no longer held weight, Kody shifted once again, this time muttering that he had lost momentum, that he had lost his fire. As though a man who uprooted his family and spent nearly $1 million on land simply grew tired of his own dream. This excuse was thinner than desert air, a hollow confession that only confirmed what many already suspected. The obstacles were never truly financial, never truly marital, never truly bureaucratic. They were far deeper, far darker, buried within the land itself. Because when we turned from the family narrative to the land records, the picture grew stranger still. Geological surveys of Coyote Pass flagged issues of hydrological instability, risks of erosion and flooding, even potential sinkhole activity in the surrounding area. One report noted water contamination concerns and flagged the region as environmentally sensitive, meaning permits could be delayed indefinitely or denied outright. Then came whispers from locals about native stewardship claims, unresolved cultural rights that could entangle development in years of legal disputes, issues TLC would never dare to broadcast. Layer onto this the county records showing liens on parcels of the land, obligations tied to mortgages and debts, proof that parts of Coyote Pass were never owned free and clear by the Browns at all. And suddenly, the picture sharpens. The land was not simply a blank canvas waiting for construction. It was a legal and geological minefield, purchased perhaps recklessly, perhaps knowingly, but never truly fit for the paradise Kody promised. And yet the question lingers, why has TLC, a billion-dollar network profiting enormously from the show's longevity, not stepped in to fund development? The answer is as cynical as it is clear. TLC does not want the dream fulfilled. For the moment homes are built, the central storyline evaporates. The perpetual deferral of the dream, the constant bickering over lots and money, is the golden goose of the franchise. A cycle of tension and disappointment more profitable than any resolution could ever be. Worse still, perhaps TLC knows the truth, that Coyote Pass is unbuildable, that it was doomed from the outset, that the Browns bought not a dream but a barren expanse of unstable soil and legal headaches dressed up as destiny. And so, season after season, Kody invents new excuses, shifting blame from banks to wives to officials to himself. While the land remains as it always was, empty, silent, waiting. A monument not to family unity, but to deception, denial, and a dream that was never real. And a dream that was never real. Kody talked endlessly about the cistern. The massive underground water tank supposedly required for fire suppression in an area without fire hydrants. He whined about the costs, the engineering, the complexity of running power lines and installing septic systems. As if the Brown family were pioneers facing an insurmountable logistical nightmare unique in all of Arizona. And to the casual viewer, lulled by his weary sighs and dramatic speeches, it sounded reasonable, even sympathetic. Yet here lies the fatal flaw in his tale. What the Browns described is not unique, not unprecedented, not even unusual. It is 100% standard for anyone attempting to build on rural land in northern Arizona. Thousands of families, ranchers, retirees, contractors, and developers navigate these same hurdles every single year. They pay the fees, they follow the procedures, they work with local companies who specialize in cisterns, septic systems, and permit acquisition, and they build. It costs money, yes. It takes time, yes. But it is not a mystery, not a crisis, and certainly not a 6-year stalemate. Are we truly expected to believe that the Brown family with significant television income, producers, consultants, and publicists at their disposal were uniquely incapable of solving a problem that ordinary citizens solve every single day? It stretches credibility to breaking point. 6 years have passed. 6 years of we're about to break ground. Yet the cistern is not installed. The power lines are not run. The septic systems are not dug. Why? Is it because they are the most incompetent developers in Arizona's history? Or is it because their applications are being perpetually denied or delayed for a reason they dare not mention on camera? Think about it. A permit denial is not good television. It is dull bureaucracy. A piece of stamped paper filed away in silence. But a screaming match between a husband and his wives, that is drama, that is content. And so the Browns gave the cameras arguments instead of admissions. The bureaucratic nightmare. Explanation is their most sophisticated cover story yet, because it contains just enough truth to be convincing. Yes, the process is complicated, but what they cannot admit is why they have failed to get through it. The truth is not incompetence. The truth is obstruction. They are being blocked, and they have known it all along. Which brings us to the most bizarre piece of the puzzle. The anomaly that makes no sense unless you look through the lens of cover-up, the pond. Watch the footage carefully. Clip 1. Kody stands on the barren property, gesturing dramatically, proclaiming, "Right here. This is where the pond will be." Clip 2. At a family meeting, he declares, "My first priority before any houses is the pond." Clip 3. His confessional eyes dreamy, describing grandchildren fishing, the pond as the heart of the property, while his family scattered across Flagstaff, bleeding money into mortgages and rents. His obsession was not homes, not stability, not financial prudence. It was a pond, and not a natural spring-fed pond either. He alternated between calling it a cistern, a retention pond, a water feature. A retention pond, by definition, is not romantic. It is a basin designed to collect storm runoff and contaminated water. A glorified mud pit engineered for containment, not pleasure. So why, in the midst of financial chaos and marital breakdown, was this ditch the hill Kody chose to die on? The show framed it as narcissism, a patriarch chasing another delusion. A toy for his ego while his wives begged for practicality. And we bought it. We laughed. We rolled our eyes. But what if we were wrong? What if the pond is not a whim, but a necessity? What if it is not an amenity, but a mandate? Ask yourself, what is a retention pond for? It is not to decorate. It is to contain. And containment changes everything. Suddenly, Kody's obsession looks less like folly and more like desperation. The visible symptom of a problem too toxic to name. What if an early environmental survey, a standard requirement before permits, flagged something catastrophic? Contaminated soil, tainted groundwater, a discovery so damning the county could never allow homes until remediation was complete. In such cases, the first demand is always the same: control the water. Stop whatever is in it from spreading. Build containment. Build a pond. Suddenly, his fixation is not joy, but panic. His exaggerated enthusiasm is the frantic theater of a man trying to sell. His family and himself on a nightmare, rebranded as a dream. We have already dismantled the excuses. It was not about money. They had it, as proven by Robin's nearly $1 million house. It was not about family feuds. The lot map was decided. The wives appeased, yet no progress followed. It was not red tape. Thousands of others navigate the same systems with success. Which leaves us with a terrifying conclusion. The land itself is the obstacle. The Browns are not victims of their own drama. They are guardians of a toxic secret. And the greatest clue lies not in bank ledgers or county maps, but in the soil, the water, and the silence that has paralyzed Coyote Pass for 6 years. To find the answer, we stopped listening to the Browns' excuses and turned to the world around them. Public records, environmental reports, local news archives, and what we found begins not with banks or bureaucrats, but with prairie dogs. Gunnison's prairie dogs, common in the grasslands of northern Arizona. Keystone species, charming to the casual observer. But within their colonies lies an ancient terror, the bacterium Yersinia pestis, carrier of the plague. Yes, the plague, the Black Death of medieval Europe, still very much alive in the American Southwest. Every year, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico see warnings, occasional outbreaks. Urgent advisories to avoid dead rodents, protect pets, remain vigilant. The disease cycles silently through rodent populations, surfacing in die-offs, leaving behind fleas that transmit infection. And then we check the timeline. The Browns bought Coyote Pass in summer 2018. Their first months should have been filled with environmental assessments. And then spring 2019, local headlines. Coconino County Public Health issues a warning after a significant prairie dog die-off near Donny Park. The cause, evidence of plague. The location, shockingly close to Coyote Pass. To most residents, it was a public health footnote, quickly forgotten. But to a family attempting to develop land in that very region, it could have been a death sentence for their dream. If plague was detected in the soil, in the rodent colonies on or near their property, construction permits would have triggered a cascade of environmental and health requirements. Quarantines, containment, remediation. And what is often mandated in such cases? Prevent contaminated water from migrating. Build retention systems. Build ponds. Suddenly, Kody's fixation aligns perfectly with a bureaucratic nightmare too dangerous to reveal on camera. He cannot admit that his promised land may be tainted. He cannot tell the network their star storyline is built on diseased soil. So instead, he sells the pond as a dream, a vision, a family treasure. Behind the cameras, he is cornered. On screen, he is delusional. In reality, he is desperate. And this, we believe, is the heart of the cover-up. The Browns are not stalled by money, nor by feuds, nor by laziness. They are paralyzed because Coyote Pass itself may be uninhabitable, cursed not by myth, but by microbes, poisoned by nature, ensnared in environmental restrictions they dare not disclose. 6 years of excuses, 6 years of denial, 6 years of sacrifice, all to conceal one unbearable truth. The land is the problem. And Kody Brown has been a prisoner of that truth ever since. Don Park is a quiet community just a few miles northeast of Flagstaff, Arizona. On a map, its location relative to Coyote Pass is deeply unsettling. The distance, just over 5 miles as the crow flies. For any environmental issue carried by wildlife, winds, or water, that is not a comfortable buffer. It's essentially the same neighborhood. This wasn't some distant event on the other side of the state. This was happening in their backyard at the exact moment they should have been breaking ground. Was it just a coincidence? Bad luck? Or was it something far more consequential? When you purchase a large, undeveloped parcel of land with the intent of building multiple dwellings, You cannot simply start pouring concrete. You must submit to a battery of inspections, the most fundamental of which, especially in an area with known environmental sensitivities, is soil and water analysis. These tests are not optional. They are a prerequisite for obtaining a building permit. County officials need to know that the land is safe for the people who will live on it and for the surrounding community. So let's play out a hypothetical scenario, one that matches every piece of evidence we've seen. It's the spring of 2019. Kody Brown, eager to finally build his family's dream compound, hires a local engineering firm to perform preliminary site work. A technician visits Coyote Pass, taking soil samples from several locations across the property. They also test water from the small seasonal wash that cuts through the land. The samples are sent to a lab for analysis. To Kody, it's just routine. He's likely imagining floor plans, driveways, and countertops. And then the phone rings. It's the engineer or perhaps a grim-faced official from the county planning department. The news is bad. The lab results have flagged something serious. The soil samples show traces, or perhaps even active colonies, of Yersinia pestis bacteria. Maybe a prairie dog colony on the property had a die-off, and the bacteria now lingers in the soil of their burrows. The official explains the situation in cold, bureaucratic terms. All permit applications are frozen indefinitely. The land is now under a development moratorium. To even consider building in the future, the Browns would need to undertake a costly, extensive remediation process, potentially involving the removal and replacement of huge amounts of topsoil and the installation of a sophisticated water management system to ensure contaminated storm runoff doesn't spread to surrounding areas. In one phone call, Kody Brown's dream turns to dust. The $820,000 piece of land he just bought is not an asset. It's a liability, a toxic one. This would be a bombshell. Under state and federal law, Kody now possesses a material fact about the property that he is legally required to disclose to any potential buyer. He can't sell it without revealing the contamination. And who would buy plague-infested land? Even if someone did, they'd pay pennies on the dollar. It would be a catastrophic financial blow his ego could never withstand. And he can't build on it because the county has red tagged it. He's trapped. Some will argue the plague sounds dramatic, and you're right, it is the most extreme possibility. But the specific contaminant may not even matter. The result is the same. The cover-up is the same. Let's consider an equally plausible theory. What was Coyote Pass before it became Coyote Pass? Ranch land. For decades, it formed part of a larger agricultural area. And what happened on ranches in the mid-20th century? They used chemicals, powerful industrial-strength pesticides and herbicides now banned. Chemicals like DDT and arsenic-based livestock treatments. These substances were often stored or disposed of improperly, buried in pits or dumped into ditches. They seeped into the soil and groundwater where they can remain for generations. Is it possible Coyote Pass was once the site of an old, forgotten agricultural dump? Elevated levels of arsenic, lead, or banned pesticides would trigger the same result as plague bacteria, an immediate and indefinite halt to all building permits. The land would be flagged as a potential brownfield site, requiring remediation that could cost millions. There's even a third possibility, one that requires no human error at all. The geology of Arizona is complex. In many parts of the state, the groundwater naturally contains high levels of arsenic and other undesirable elements. It's not pollution, it's simply in the rock the water flows through. A private well might be fine for a single home, but building 4 or 5 homes, each with its own septic system, on a piece of land with a high water table and naturally occurring arsenic, that's an environmental red flag of the highest order. The county would be terrified of a contamination plume from septic leach fields poisoning groundwater for miles around. Again, the result is the same. No permits, build a containment pond. Stop the water from leaving. Whether it's the bubonic plague, a toxic chemical dump, or naturally occurring arsenic. The story ends the same way. Kody Brown owns a beautiful, sprawling, and completely unusable piece of land. And the moment you accept that as the core truth, every bizarre action, every angry outburst, every strange decision from the past 6 years suddenly snaps into terrifying focus. Kody's frantic, erratic behavior ceases to look like the flailing of a narcissist losing control of his family. It becomes the raw panic of a man trapped in an impossible situation, suffocating under the weight of a secret he can never tell. His rage at his wives isn't simply about their disobedience. It's fury that they won't quietly go along with this charade. He is drowning. They refuse to drown with him. And then there's Robin. Remember all the times Robin expressed fear and anxiety about Coyote Pass? She spoke about the dark woods, the wildlife, the isolation. "It just feels very dark out here," she said on camera, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm worried about the kids being out here with, mountain lions and stuff." We interpreted this as the city girl being anxious, the wife who always seemed to need more comfort and security. But what if her fear wasn't about mountain lions at all? What if stuff was her code word for the real, invisible threat? Rewatch those scenes with the knowledge that she might know the ground her children are standing on is potentially contaminated. Her anxiety is no longer irrational. It's the terror of a mother who knows the secret. Her reluctance to move onto the property, her insistence on staying in a large, comfortable rental home far away from it, was not about being the princess of the family. It was an act of self-preservation. She and Kody are the keepers of the secret, the co-conspirators in the cover-up. She wasn't afraid of the dark woods. She was afraid of the toxic earth beneath her feet. This cover-up has casualties. It cost Kody his family. The other wives weren't just leaving a broken marriage. They were fleeing a toxic secret. For years, Kody and Robin maintained the Coyote Pass cover story, weaving a narrative of money woes and family drama to hide the truth. But Christine, Janelle, and Meri were not just characters in Kody's television show. They were women trapped inside that lie. Eventually, the poison becomes too much to bear. Christine's departure has been framed as the end of a marriage gone cold, triggered by Kody's refusal to be intimate and his failure to show up for their daughter's surgery. Those were significant factors, no doubt. But what if they were simply the final straws on a camel already broken by a much heavier, much dirtier secret? Look again at Christine's statements about Coyote Pass. "The energy of this place is off. It doesn't feel good here. I can't do that to my kids." The show wants you to believe she's talking about emotional energy, about Kody's neglect. But what if she meant something literal? What if she'd seen the environmental test results and knew the land was physically off? Imagine her position. She knows the property is hazardous, knows Kody has no viable, affordable path to fixing it. Yet he pressures her and the family to pretend everything is fine, to keep filming, smiling, and talking about a future on land she knows will never be built upon. He asks her to lie to the world and, worse, to keep her children tied to a toxic place. Her decision to move back to Utah wasn't just about being near her adult children. It was an escape. It was a mother's primal need to protect her child from danger. Janelle's case is even more striking. She was the pragmatist, the one who believed in the Coyote Pass dream more than anyone. Her move onto the property in that fifth-wheel RV was framed as a bold, pioneering step. But in the light of this theory, it looks like a final, desperate gambit. Desperate gambit. Janelle understands finances and logistics. It's highly likely she knew about the contamination issue. Her decision to move onto the land wasn't an act of faith. It was an experiment, a way of forcing Kody's hand. "Okay, Kody," she was essentially saying, "I'm here. I'm ready. Let's see you get the permits. Let's see you handle the county's requirements." And what happened? Nothing. Delays, excuses, inaction. She spent a miserable summer in that RV, only to discover what she probably already suspected. There was no path forward. The problem was not solvable. Her final break from Kody wasn't just about him screaming about respect. It was about her realizing he had led them into a financial and logistical black hole. And his only plan was to blame everyone else for it. She decoupled herself not just from a failing marriage, but from a worthless, toxic asset. All of this reframes Kody Brown not as a grieving patriarch, but as a man whose co-conspirators have abandoned their posts. For years, he relied on the other wives to help maintain the facade. Their presence, their arguments, their very existence provided the smokescreen he needed. Now they're gone. Christine and Janelle have abandoned ship, leaving him and Robin exposed, holding the toxic dirt, the massive debt, and the terrible secret. Every time he lashes out about loyalty and betrayal, he's not just talking about family. He's talking about the cover-up. In the end, the fighting, the money, the drama. It was all a grand performance designed to hide a simple, devastating truth. The problem was never the family. The problem was the land. The dream of Coyote Pass was dead before it began, killed by a lab report and a county ordinance. Kody Brown bought a lemon, a beautiful piece of land with a poison pill buried beneath it. Instead of admitting his catastrophic failure and facing the financial loss, he built a fortress of lies. In doing so, he destroyed his family to protect his pride and a toxic secret. Christine and Janelle didn't leave because polygamy failed. They left because they refused to live inside that lie any longer. And the longer you look, the more the pieces fit. The timeline, the behavior, the contradictions, they all point to one inescapable conclusion: a land deal gone catastrophically wrong, an environmental nightmare buried beneath the surface, and a patriarch who chose deception over truth.